little bit about Wendy Myers. She is the founder of MyersDetox.com. She's a detox expert, a functional diagnostic nutritionist, and a NES Bioenergetic practitioner in the Los Angeles area. She is the #1 best-selling author of Limitless Energy, How to Detox Toxic Metals and End Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue, and is the host of the Heavy Metal Summit. Wendy currently hosts 2 podcasts, the Myers Detox Podcast about detox and Supercharged Podcast about NES Health Bioenergetics. Passionate about the importance of detox to live a long, disease-free life, she created the revolutionary Myers Detox Protocol and Mitochondrial Detox after working with thousands of clients. I love it. Welcome, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so you are very passionate about heavy metals as a, how can we say, a root cause of health imbalance. So tell us more about why this is such a strong belief and has really become your life's work.
Well, it's interesting, I'm like a lot of people. I had a lot of health issues and, spent a lot of money and time and different doctors trying to figure out what was going on with me. And I luckily very early on discovered that heavy metal toxicity played a huge role in how I was feeling, and just started doing detox protocols, coffee enemas, infrared saunas, lots of minerals and detox supplements, and made huge strides in my health. And just kind of also in learning about my protocol and learning about health, I was just really surprised by everything I was learning, like how many health issues have heavy metals as an underlying root cause, how many symptoms can be caused by various heavy metals. And I have a blog post on my site called the Toxic Metals Sources and Symptoms Guide that kind of lists every metal, everywhere you can get those metals and the symptoms that they're shown in the research to cause. And it's just really shocking and really, brings to light how important detoxification is if you plan to be healthy.
Yeah. So what are, I'll try to find that blog as we talk, but what are some of the symptoms that people, maybe due to heavy metals that people are missing?
Well, there's a lot of symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, depression, anxiety, digestive issues, pain syndromes. I mean, there's a lot of illnesses that are misdiagnosed, like MS, when they're actually mercury toxicity, for instance. I mean, cancers are caused by heavy metals, namely cadmium. Just weight gain, resistant weight loss. Trouble sleeping. there's just so many different metals that interfere in so many different processes, because depending on the heavy metal or the toxic metal, they're not all heavy, but I just say heavy metals because that's what people think of. But they basically poison certain enzymes. Say there's metals that poison enzymes that make insulin, metals that poison enzymes that make melatonin, metals that poison enzymes that, release fat from fat cells. And that's basically how they work. That's how they cause symptoms. They just interfere in your body's various metabolic processes.
Okay. And I did find that guide and the blog, and I shared it in the chat, and I will try to go share it on Facebook, but it's kind of hard to coordinate all these things. So sometimes I share it on Facebook later. So I think people, if you took the average person on the street, they'd say, well, you're not exposed to heavy metals unless you work at like a welding factory or something like that. So can you myth bust that idea?
Yeah, and that's certainly a big cause of exposure. I have lots of clients that they're jewelry makers. They worked in a factory 20 years ago, or even some that live next to a nuclear power plant and are super strontium toxic or what have you.
Wow.
But, you can be exposed through the air, food, and water at any point in your life and still harbor those metals and toxins in your body, even 20, 30, 40 years later, if your body wasn't able to excrete those toxins for whatever reason. And so a lot of people think, oh, hey, I've been living so healthy the past 5 years and eating salad and juicing and sauna and all this stuff, and not realizing that their choices, 30 years ago, maybe smoking or maybe, non-organic food or what have you, was, today linked to their health symptoms or diagnoses or issues that they're having. So
if you smoked in college or had some kind of random job like in the past that you even forgot about, you could still be suffering from something.
Yeah, and we get exposures in the most, unlikely places. Like people don't realize that, they're drinking filtered water, but they're showering in water that can have all kinds of contaminants in it. Or when they live somewhere in Ecuador for 6 months and the well water was contaminated that they were drinking, or they live Long Island, what's one of the most contaminated places in the United States. There's a dump there, and it gets into the soils and causes a lot of health problems for people, unbeknownst to them. And so there's a lot of different sources. Maybe some people are aware of them, and some people may have exposures where they have no idea where they got this stuff. We breathe toxins in. I mean, I have some plant here in in Huntington Beach. It's always, very frequently spewing some very unsavory sulfuric type gas that I'm quite certain is going to kill me someday. I'm like, just turn on my air filter and hope it's okay. But, we get, there's a lot of metals we breathe in: aluminum, strontium, barium, mercury, cadmium, that are airborne. We breathe those in. So, I mean, the point is not to scare you guys or make you depressed. These are just the facts. This is the reality of modern life. There's a lot of things that you can do to control intake, to control exposure, and to remove these toxins from your body.
Okay, awesome. And you're going to do something really special for us today, which I'm super excited about, is you're going to look at some tests with us.
Yes.
And what type of tests do you prefer to run for heavy metals, and why?
Yes. So there's no perfect test for heavy metals. Sometimes I hear debates like, oh, hair mineral analysis or urine or blood, or, there's no one perfect test. And because some metals come out into the hair, some metals exit the body through the urine, some metals exit the body through the stool, and then some metals can be floating through the blood at sometimes. But there's also different types of tests within those categories. So they're not all created equal. But I prefer to run a hair mineral analysis as a basic first test. It's a great screening tool. Anybody can do it. Not everyone can do a urine DMSA challenge test. It will make them very, very ill. But everyone can do a hair mineral analysis. So it's super easy. You can do it at home. So that's a good starting place where I can, see what's going on with people. There's a lot of information in a hair mineral analysis besides just toxicity. And then if people need to or want to, I like to do a urine and stool test also to get the full picture of what people are excreting.
Okay, very interesting. And let's see, do you have some tests handy to pull up, Wendy?
Yes, I do. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, let's just share while we're chatting.
So I'll share it. So I will, this is a friend's test, and really interesting. If you look at this hair mineral analysis, this is the pink toxic element section right here. And so this is kind of where most people are interested in to see what their metals are. But this person, you can see, has a fair bit of arsenic, the AS. Arsenic's found in conventional chickens, conventional eggs, rice, even organic rice. It's found in water. It's a common water contaminant. You get it in cigarettes also. It's a big toxin from cigarettes. And my biggest beef with arsenic is that it causes resistant weight loss, where a lot of people having trouble losing weight. And this was me, because I used to think El Pollo Loco was super healthy. And so I ate there all the time, and I got very, very arsenic toxic. And
Wow.
a certain point where I had a lot of trouble losing weight. And as I got rid of the arsenic, much easier.
Isn't that so interesting? People get so stuck with weight loss and they don't know why. And what a great example. And that is something that really is a frustration for me about eating out. There's almost nowhere to eat out where the meat is clean, almost nowhere.
Yeah.
So even if you say, well, I eat clean at home, but what about when you're eating out and you order chicken?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not organic. It's going to have arsenic in it because the feed around the world has arsenic in it. It makes the chickens grow 50% faster. It makes the meat look pink. And so guess what? It's in the eggs too, because it's being fed to the chickens. So big problem, big contaminant. Then mercury, the Hg here, this person's really high in mercury. This is definitely a sushi addict, sign of a sushi addict. But, if you're eating a lot of fish, you're thinking, hey, it's a clean, healthy protein, or they're eating a lot of shellfish, people will get mercury. I say eat fish. Fish is incredibly healthy. I prefer people just do a little hack, like have some cilantro extract or coriander seed oil with daily or with their seafood, and that'll grab onto the mercury before it deposits in your body. So even though fish has mercury, you just want to avoid the ones that have a lot of mercury, like ahi tunas, and canned tuna is still okay.
Really?
But those are pretty small fish. They're skipjack tuna. They're they're like 1/10 of the size as an ahi tuna. It's used in sushi rolls and sashimi and things like that.
Yeah, I usually tell people to have canned salmon because it tastes like the same.
Yeah, it's delicious. Yeah, or sardines. They taste like tuna fish if you kind of mash them up with mayonnaise.
They do. They do.
It's the same. Yeah, and so, salmon's fine. They don't live that long. Any kind of mediums to small fish, they don't live long enough to accumulate a lot of mercury.
Gotcha.
Salmon has a little mercury, but all food is contaminated to a degree. So you need to eat a healthy diet, balanced diet, and you need to have a detox strategy. It's my opinion.
Okay.
This person, the cadmium here, CD, cadmium causes more cancers than all of the other metals combined. And so this person has just a tiny bit, doesn't look like much, but cadmium doesn't come out in the hair very much, except my ex-personal trainer who was smoking all day long, every day, his marijuana all day long. His cadmium was really high, but most people, we only see cadmium in the stool. So we know that, but if there's any here, we know where there's one rat, there's 1,000 more.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember I ran my test with you a few years ago, and you said even if it looks really small like this, it's still significant.
Exactly. Because even if you have nothing in no cadmium in the hair, no cadmium in the urine, I've seen it super high in the stool where they do have toxicity. So like I said, there's no one perfect metals test.
Gotcha.
And then this person also has aluminum. Well, statistically, everyone has aluminum. It's impossible to avoid.
Wow.
But easy to remove. So this person definitely has some, even though it's not technically in this high range, this is high compared to the rest of the population. And then this person also has some other metals here, like tin is fairly high, the SN. Tin is a metal that causes fatigue. Aluminum is also a metal that causes fatigue.
Okay.
Arsenic, also a metal that causes fatigue. So not surprisingly, this person used to suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome for 7 years.
Okay.
They couldn't work or anything. They were very ill. So a lot of metals coming out on this test, which is great.
Wendy, can I ask you about that blue section up top?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I've been trying to learn more about heavy metals testing, and my understanding is, which is minuscule compared to yours, is these ratios of beneficial minerals are quite important and tell us quite a bit. Like I remember when I ran mine with you, my magnesium was quite high, and I thought, well, that's weird because I take it and I feel like I'm low in it, but it's like a dumping out. So as I've been reading, there seems to be a lot more emphasis on these beneficial minerals and getting them in balance. And then with the thought that helps push out the heavy metals. Do you agree with that?
Yes. And that's why I like running a hair mineral analysis, because it's a 3-month average of your tissue levels of minerals. So we don't care about minerals in the blood. That's, they're almost always the same unless there's a major imbalance going on. But with hair mineral analysis, it's very important to look at mineral levels and to replete and improve mineral levels, because if you're mineral deficient, you're going to retain heavy metals. And when you start taking minerals, you start pushing out metals and detoxing them. And so that is the basic foundational principle of detox. And that's a way to kind of push the metals out to kind of displace them, as opposed to going in and ripping them out, because the body is not going to just let these be ripped out. The body is not going to let these go because it's using a lot of different metals for various tasks in the body. So it's not going to just release them unless it's ready to, it has the energy to, and it has the preferred mineral to do the certain jobs that it's using the metals for. So I love looking at the minerals, the actual levels and the balance of minerals to each other. Might be a little bit TMI for our purposes on the Facebook Live today, but just there's a ton of information in this hair mineral analysis.
Yeah, someone is asking to see the lower half of the page or the second page, but I think another thing you said is sometimes you don't see much heavy metals at all.
Yes.
But when you start to detox, then the next test, which is what, 3 months later or something?
Yeah, I do it about every 3 to 6 months, depending on the person's desire, budget, or what have you. But a lot of times, people that are going to seek out hair mineral analysis aren't that well. They aren't feeling well. They're fatigued or have a health issue, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with them. So many of my clients don't have any metals coming out on their hair mineral analysis. This doesn't mean that they're free of toxins. This does not mean that in 60 years, they didn't accumulate mercury or aluminum, or it's not possible. Everyone has some amount of metals in their body, but if they're tired, they don't have the energy to detox. If they have genetic issues where they aren't able to excrete metals in the hair, this is some people, or they don't have the nutrition or minerals to push these metals out. Maybe they don't have enough antioxidants to detox. There's usually some kind of roadblock to detox that's happening when we don't see any metals on a test. And sometimes you just don't have any metals. That just happens. Like your body just isn't pushing something out over the last 3 months. But what happens is, even if you don't see any metals in the first test, even this can happen also with a urine test or stool test as well. But when you start working with someone, they start taking the minerals that they need, they start taking the right form of minerals, which is usually a mistake they're making. When they start taking enough minerals, when they start doing detox protocols, they start doing infrared saunas, they start doing coffee enemas, which improves liver function. They start opening up the detox pathways, getting the right nutrition. Then on subsequent tests, we see more metals coming out because their body's working.
Okay. So I mentioned in your bio, you've developed a couple protocols. Would those be, if, say you weren't seeing much, but the person was quite sick, would you just start them on one of those potentially?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I usually start with, people taking minerals. So I do kind of like a pre-tox for about 3 to 6 months, where they're taking minerals, they're taking B vitamins, they're taking, just various things, maybe a binder, just doing things that get their, are detoxing their body. Taking binders absorbs toxins. It's a kind of a passive detox, but also mineralizing their body, getting their body working better in general before I start giving them specific supplements to grab on and remove the metals that they have in their body. And so, everyone I work with, it's on an individual basis, what kind of supplements that they get, and depending on their health conditions. And, a lot of people that have tried detoxes, they don't feel good after they do them, or they're just something that isn't working. Your body can detox. It's just, you may just not know how to go about that and in what order, and people need a lot of hand holding. So that's why it's really important to, if you have had problems detoxing, to work with a practitioner to help you navigate those pitfalls.
Okay. So you do offer, I think both. You offer a self-test where people can just order their own test, and there's some guides that come with it. And then you also have the option to work privately, it sounds like. Do you want to show those pages or explain more about it? And I can share the link in the...
Yeah, go ahead and share the link. Yeah, if you click on this link, that'll lead you to a page to give you some more information about hair mineral analysis. And it's a great deal also to do your own hair mineral analysis test and just check it out, see what metals that you have. Because a lot of times people kind of feel like they know they need to detox, but they're not really sure about the next step to take, or they're not sure what metals they have. So you really want to test, not guess. You want to figure out what you're working with. What metals do you have, so that you then know what exact supplements you need to take to get rid of that mercury, to get rid of that aluminum. So when you do a hair mineral analysis with us, afterwards you also get a video series. Like after you buy it, you get a video series that teaches you all about hair mineral analysis, all about detoxification, like your next steps, and also gives you information about working with a practitioner as well to interpret it.
Okay, awesome. So I put that link both in the Facebook and the Zoom chat. If you're on your phone, the Zoom chat, it can be hard to find. It's under participants, and then you go to chat. So it's a little like, if you're new to Zoom, might not be super obvious, but then all the information's on that page. Yeah, it comes with some guides. The video is great. It's $97, right?
Yeah, exactly. $99.
$99. Oh, okay. Yes. I've said 97.
Yeah,
well, it's $2 more.
Yes.
But that's, yeah, it's an amazing price point, which is another reason I like this test, because as we know, a lot of tests are not cheap, but $99 is really reasonable to get this information. Somebody asked about lead.
Yes.
Before you answer that, I do want to say your website is a treasure trove. You can pretty much go in and be like lead, aluminum, blah, 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 and then something will come up.
Yes.
But since we have Patty here live, what are your recommendations for lead?
Yeah, so lead, I very rarely see that on a hair mineral analysis, but it doesn't matter because everyone has lead. Statistically, it's absolutely unavoidable. If we don't see it in a hair test, it will typically almost always be in urine and or stool. So lead, unfortunately, is one of those metals that our body sequesters away in our bones. So even if you do have lead, it typically won't show up on, even if it doesn't show up on test, it'll show up on future tests as you clean up your soft tissues. And then the body eventually starts to start cleaning up your bones as well. Because that's where the body stores a lot of aluminum, a lot of lead in the bones. And why does everybody have lead? Leaded gasoline and the burning of fossil fuels, petroleum, has unleashed all this lead into our environment, into our air, which then has settled onto our soils, and then it's gotten into all the food. And so even though we haven't had leaded gasoline for decades, it's still in the soils. It's still in our food. It's in food-based supplements. It's in greens powders. Other countries around the world that are still using leaded gasoline that gets into our atmosphere, and then the weather patterns bring it over to us. So it's unfortunately a reality of modern life, and it does poison mitochondria to a certain degree. It poisons your ability to make energy. So it is one of those things that when I design a supplement program or a detox program for people, inevitably some of the things that they're recommended do get lead, even if they're not specifically or obviously showing on one of their metals tests.
Okay. So I'm embarrassed to say I've never read your book.
Yes.
I really need to read your book. Like, why have I not?
Just watch the videos. Yeah.
Is it Kindle only, or is it
It is
paper?
Kindle only.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to do a paperback. I keep starting it, and then we almost get there, and then we just don't finish it. So
yeah, you've got a lot going on.
To do a paperback,
but no, yeah, we have a Kindle, but my son, it's cracked now, so maybe we'll get another one. But yeah, I just think you have such a depth of information, and we're just scratching the surface here today. We can take some more questions if people have them when we're still alive, but there's just there's just so much. Do you want to share, I know you said things are kind of customized per metal or per person. Do you want to share some of your favorite supplements you sell or favorite techniques you do at home?
Yes. Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the very basic thing, like if someone doesn't want to do testing, or they don't, maybe aren't ready at this time to work with a practitioner and go that deep on it. And I understand that. And I created a supplement line. It's called the Myers Detox line of supplements, to help people detox without doing testing. So one of them is called CitraCleanse. It's a binder, and that binder, it's a citrus pectin. It also has cilantro extract, and it also it has fulvic humic acid in it. And all of those ingredients are, very comprehensive, like 3-in-1 detox that help to mineralize your body, help to chelate metals or grab them out of your tissues, and to absorb them with the binder. So that's a great, great, simple way, very effective way to detox. And then it kind of looks like this. I have a bottle right here. Looks like that. And the CitraCleanse. And then I have another product called activated silica. And it's a really specific form of silica that helps to bind onto metals that interfere in mitochondrial functioning, energy production. It detoxes arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium. And so almost every client I test has thallium toxicity. And so a lot of people are like, what is that? I've never heard of that. Well, it's just in our air. It's from smog. It's from burning of petroleum industry. It's naturally occurring in petroleum deposits. So it just gets into our air, and we breathe it in, and it makes us tired and brain fogged and have bad digestion. And so the activated silica grabs onto that and gets rid of it. I think I have a bottle here. Here's what it looks like. We have it coming out in capsule form pretty soon. So this is kind of like my 1-2 punch to remove a majority of heavy metals. And it's probably one of the easiest, most effective detoxes people can do.
Okay, awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
We did have one other question on here. Let me pull it back up about someone else's protocol. Morley Roberts root cause protocol.
Yes. Yeah, I love Morley Robbins.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually trained with Morley, years and years ago. And I'm a huge, huge fan of his work. And I've definitely incorporated things I've learned from him into what I do. But yeah, I'm 100% fan. I think that's a great detox protocol. The one thing he used mainly supplements, mainly nutrition and minerals, hair mineral analysis, to help people. And I take it a little bit like one step further, is using or taking supplements to remove metals, to chelate them out of you. So supplements that actually will go in and bind to metals and pull them out. I don't believe that he does that. He just uses minerals and nutrition. That's a very, very effective way to kind of just get the body working on its own so that it can push out these metals and detox on its own. And there's a lot of protocols out there that just use minerals, just use hair mineral analysis as a guide to supplementation. I kind of like personally taking it to another level. Like I wanted to use urine metals test, stool metals test, because hair mineral analysis doesn't give us the 100% whole picture, but it's definitely where I always start with people because it gives me the most amount of information. But there's more than one way to skin a chicken. There's a lot of different ways to detox, a lot of very effective methods. So I just say, try different things and see what works for you. See what kind of gets you the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's true. I see just even with binders, different people respond to different things.
Yeah.
So for sure. I've been doing my little clicking and sharing links. Did we not share enough about actual lead detox, or did we share some of that?
Oh, about how to detox lead?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for lead detoxification, some of the best supplements for that, the number one supplement is EDTA. So if you know that you have lead toxicity, only if it's been confirmed by testing, do I recommend EDTA suppositories. Okay, so these are kind of like a synthetic sulfur, and they're not for everybody, and they can definitely deplete your calcium. So I recommend taking calcium when you take those, so it does not pulling the calcium out of your tissues. But it's definitely the number one thing that helps that. You can also do EDTA chelation, like IV chelation therapy. I would probably only do that in like a life-threatening situation, the IV chelation. And that is the case for some people. I've have a couple clients that the lead was shockingly high. And I said, you need to go to a doctor immediately and get that taken care of, because IV chelation can bring the lead down super, super fast. And then other supplements that remove that, like if you don't have super high levels, are things like cilantro extract, coriander seed oil is very effective, fat soluble lipoic acid. It's called, I really like life extension super lipoic acid.
Nice. Okay.
That's a specific form of lipoic acid. It's not the typical form. Zeolites can also be very helpful. I like Cyto Detox. That's the one I recommend. So lots of great natural products that aid to remove lead.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I think I have 3 more questions, and then maybe I'll wrap it up. Because this is a rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah,
we can go down. I know the answer to this one, but I'll let you answer. Can heavy metals cause hair loss in females?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I've experienced this also. So the number one metals that cause hair loss are uranium, thallium, and arsenic. Those are the number one. So uranium is something that is in the water in California. It's also in the water in mountainous ranges. The southwestern United States seems to have quite a bit. So when you're showering, you're absorbing all this uranium. And when your body is excreting it, you can have an alarming amount of hair loss. Like at one point, I had a huge amount of uranium detoxing in my hair test, and I had lost about 1/5 of my hair. And I was freaking out. I thought, oh my God, I'm dying. But short of that, people can have thallium toxicity will cause hair loss and thinning hair, and arsenic will do that as well. My activated silica is great at removing those metals, not uranium. It doesn't get uranium, but it does get thallium and arsenic. For uranium, I recommend EDTA, zeolites, and my CitraCleanse product. Those will get that with uranium.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying right now, that the treatment depends on the cause. Yeah. Because it is really specific. So different binders have an affinity for different things. So, this is why working with Wendy's team is really incredible. And again, there's a ton of stuff on her blog. We might not get to every question, but if you're like, what about detoxing mercury? There's an article on it. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Let's see. Somebody asked about the order of testing. If someone has mold or Lyme, would they work on that first and then new metals, or do it together?
Yes. So I recommend doing a hair mineral analysis to begin. That's the best place to start. And then you can get those results. And then based on those, you can make a choice to do a urine and or stool test. You can do all 3 tests if you like. But I usually always start people with a hair mineral analysis.
Okay. Yeah, and I think things can be tested all at once, and just, as you go to treat, if you're treating mold, Lyme, 5 different things, you need to be slow and careful about what you're treating. Like some people are like very much with the order, like Jay Davidson. I'm not necessarily so much with the exact order as just don't do too much at once.
Yeah. I mean, the thing to remember is like you can't address everything at once. You can't fix everything at once. I try to go with an approach to, start upstream first, like working on EMF, working on grounding people. And then and that fixes a lot of issues downstream. Then work on, mineralizing people. Sometimes I use bioenergetics with people. That will address emotional trauma or other reasons that they're just being drained or they can't detox, or, there's just a lot of different things I'll use with people depending on what I think they need, what they're ready for, what they're open to. And that varies a lot from individual to individual.
Yeah, it definitely does. Okay, a couple last questions. Someone said they've been using some of your products. They're not seeing their metals come down yet. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Well, the thing with metals is it takes time to remove them. And you're not going to just see a lot of movement on the metals test just with taking a couple of products alone. And many times people are taking supplements and they're not absorbing them. Perhaps they need to work on their diet. Perhaps they need to take more minerals. Perhaps they have gut digestion issues that they need to work on. Perhaps they need what they're taking isn't addressing their specific minerals or metals. And also, just because a metal isn't maybe coming like lowering on a test, if it goes higher, that means it's excreting. That means it's coming out of them. So a lot of times people get confused on tests. Like they think if their mercury is going higher, that they're getting worse, because in their mind, they want to see it coming down and get lower. But you're always going to see metals coming up and coming out of you before you'll see them coming down. And then we also have confounding factors, like if people aren't grounded, if people don't have any energy, if they don't have energy to detox, we won't see metals coming out. There's a lot of different things besides just what detox or chelating supplements you're taking that play into whether people are reducing their body burden of metals.
Okay, perfect. And this is the last question I'm going to take is about kind of similar we talked about. Sometimes I think there could be a false negative. So this person's brother has Parkinson's, and I maybe was surprised to see that he was negative for mercury, and wondered your thoughts on that.
And so what was that again? I'm sorry.
Sorry. So this person had Parkinson's, but tested negative for mercury and maybe was expecting to see it and wondered your thoughts.
Yeah, well, just because someone tests negative for it depends on what test they had. Because many times that people are doing a blood test, that's almost always going to be a false negative. Because most blood tests are people actually do have the metal, but the body isn't going to allow the metal to be floating around in the bloodstream. It's going to sequester it away in the body somewhere, in your tissues, in your fat. So, and also, like I said, if someone has Parkinson's, they're obviously not well. Their body is probably not releasing the mercury on tests, even if it's there, it's just in tissue. So, most like when people have Parkinson's, they usually have iron, toxicity, aluminum, and or mercury.
Okay, I want to write that down. So you said iron, mercury, or aluminum with Parkinson's?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Where did you learn all this?
I'm just a nerd.
You just slowly were studying for so long.
Yes.
I mean, there's few people who really know this information. So it's so great. So you're still going with your podcast. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Tell us the name again.
Yeah. So my podcast is called the Myers Detox Podcast.
Okay.
Yes. It's called the Myers Detox Podcast. And we explore everything related to heavy metal detoxification and protocols and just everything under the sun related to detoxification.
Okay. Great. So you can go to the podcast if you want to follow Wendy. If you have a specific question, and I know we didn't get to a couple of them, you can go to her site. Do you ever heard something called Shilajit?
Yeah, Shilajit.
What is that? Someone's
I think it's great. I mean, it's like a fulvic humic type acid, and it's just maybe a little bit different form. And I definitely recommend that. I mean, if you're going to take it, you need a clean source of it. But some products have really high levels of lead and metals, and others don't. There's cleaner sources than others. So you can't throw like all Shilajit and label it as all being bad. Or all zeolites have aluminum. They don't. It depends on the quality of the product. It depends on the manufacturer.
Okay.
Shilajits are great for binding onto metals, for mineralizing the body, which helps detox. There's a lot of benefits to it. So I'm a fan if it's a clean source.
Okay. I saw that question. I was like, I never heard of that. I got to ask her that one. So I posted the link to the self-test, so to speak, you can do with Wendy in the chat and also in the Facebook. We post this all later on YouTube. So if you missed the first half or whatever, you can go back and watch it, or Wendy has a ton of resources. I've run my hair test 2 times now, and I'm going to keep doing it. I think it's really interesting. I want to know more about it. And I think, getting this understanding that the test is a little complex, and either reading your book or going on your website, or there's some guides that come with the test, or working with your team will shed some light on it and may really, help some symptoms that are quite stuck for you, whether it's brain fog or weight gain or what have you. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate you being on live and giving us your time to get educated. And thank you so much, Wendy. I really appreciate you coming on and being our expert this week.
Yes, and thanks so much for having me. I love educating people about heavy metals and toxins, because it can be such an eye-opening experience to learn what metals you have. And they're like, oh, okay, that explains a lot of things. That explains why I can't lose weight, or I can't think, or I'm exhausted all the time, or moody, or what have you. When a lot of people spend time blaming themselves, or they go to the doctor and the doctor just gives them sleeping pills or antidepressants or something that just doesn't get to the underlying root cause. So
yeah, when I find answers, right?
Yeah, when I finally figured things out, it was really a relief. And when I address this stuff, I just feel great today. And like 10 years ago, when I started my journey, I was just doing everything right. I was, eating the right diet. I was taking tons of supplements. I was exercising. I was getting sun. I was doing stress reduction. I was juicing. I was just frustrated, because I thought, what on earth do I have to do to feel good?
Yeah, right.
It was very frustrating. And I have just been able to figure this out on my own to help shorten that learning curve for people to figure out what is going on in their body, what is throwing a wrench in all of their efforts.
Yeah, I always tell people, just keep digging, just keep digging. And I know that's sometimes expensive and annoying or whatever, but you're worth it. You don't want to spend the next 50 years feeling like crap. You don't deserve that. So just keep digging. Lots of people don't bother, but lots of people don't feel good.
Yeah.
So I'll end on that note. Thank you again, Wendy. Thanks for everyone for attending. And just see the links in the chat and on Facebook and follow up with her.
Okay, great.